Hello, everyone. I'm Ione Butler, and I'm the founder of Uplifting Content. I am going to allow everybody a second to jump on this Facebook Live. Ashok, if you want to, you can also go to the Uplifting Content page and share it on your Facebook page too, so that people can watch live and ask us questions and get engaged. Everyone, I haven't done one of these for a bit of a week or so. Ashok and I, we were supposed to have connected about 2 months ago, but he was sick and then just had other stuff going on. So we're finally here. And this is a topic that I'm really excited to talk about because I have been feeling fatigued a lot of late. So yeah, let's see. We've got a few more people on here. I'm just going to share on my page as well. Oh, actually, is Karen doing that? Oh, I might be sharing twice. I'll leave it for Karen to do it. But anyway, okay. And the other thing to do is to try and get the comments up. So I can see what people are saying. So yeah, tell us, show us that you are there. If you're there, send us some love hearts so that we're not just talking to each other. We're talking to you too. Where are you from? Who's on the call today? I love all of that. Hi, Carrie, darling. Lovely to see you. Missed you too. Hi, Joshua. Hi, Dee Dee. It's so nice to see like some of the regulars. I really appreciate all of you. So thank you guys so much. Okay, I'm having issues trying to get this call up so that I can see all the comments. Okay, here it is. Here it is. There it is. Okay, good. Now we're good to go. Karen, please can you share this to my Facebook and the group? Thank you so much. All right, now all of that boring stuff's out of the way. Hi, everyone. Woo, woo, woo. Today, I've just mentioned it before, I've finally got my guest on the call today. And so Ashok, thank you. Ashok Gupta, thank you so much. Rather than me do a bio, because I normally always ruin it, I like just to have guests introduce yourself and just share whatever it is that you would like our audience to know about you.
Well, thank you, Ione. It's wonderful to be with you here today. Finally, I know it took us a while to get there.
We did it.
We did it, exactly. And actually, the reason that I wasn't able to come on was because I broke my ankle. So interestingly, today, I can give some feedback on going from exercising regularly and how I felt energized to then not exercising and how it impacted on my fatigue. So my ankle's a lot better now.
Glad to hear it.
Yes. So in terms of a bit of background to myself, so I actually suffered from ME and chronic fatigue syndrome when I was at university many years ago. And I remember back to that time, I mean, it was an awful, awful time. I was young, yet I felt ill all the time. And I thought, this is a brick wall. You know, my life's over. People have this for 20, 30, 40 years. How am I ever going to get better? That's it. And it was a very depressing time. But I researched the brain neurology of emotion, the brain neurology of actually fatigue, and got myself 100% better. And then set up a clinic to treat other people with chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and also multiple chemical sensitivities. Now, in my research, obviously, I realized that there are a certain very small subset of people who suffer from extreme fatigue, so chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, where fatigue is just one symptom. Whereas actually there's many people in the population who are suffering from generalized fatigue, background fatigue. So that was something that I also spent a lot of time researching. So then we've got this global clinic that treats people with those illnesses specifically. And I've also set up an app and a film called The Meaning of Life Experiment, which I know you know about, which is an app with 30 meditations and also has got 30 videos, which is a whole self-development, self-improvement program that is quite complete in a lot of ways, looks at our mental, physical and emotional, as well as spiritual well-being. So yeah, that's a bit of background to myself.
Fascinating stuff and all very necessary. We've got Elizabeth from Texas on the call, Shai, hello, and Irene, hello from Norway. Mary says, love this topic. No one seems to have talked about this yet. And yeah, as we get into this, what I would really love to hear from you guys who are listening is if anyone has experienced fatigue or just kind of general tiredness. It's definitely something that I have felt it's kind of getting better now. And Ashok, I wanted to get your opinion on this. A couple of months ago, as everybody knows that kind of joins these Facebook Lives regularly, I deal with depression. as it comes up now and again. And a couple of months ago, it was quite prevalent to the point where, and I was exhausted all the time. I actually went to the doctor to get a bunch of blood tests because I was like, is there something wrong with me on a, I don't know, biological level? Everything came back clear, but it was, I definitely think it was my emotional stuff that was causing the tiredness, because when I'm in that state of depression, I don't want to get up or do anything. So what I'm curious to know from you is, you know, everybody might not have had it as chronically as you do or experienced it. But what are the different types of fatigue? What's kind of more common? Yeah, so from your stuff, and then, you know, what have you experienced with other types of fatigue for people?
Yeah, so there are different levels of fatigue. So there's mild fatigue, where people, perhaps because of their lifestyle issues and the mind stuff, which we'll come on to, experience occasional fatigue, regular fatigue. And then there's also then a more moderate fatigue, which is when people, as you say, have mild states of depression, anxiety, stress. And on top of that, they may have a deficiency. So they may have a vitamin D deficiency, they may have diabetes, iron deficiency. So anemia is a common cause of fatigue. So as you've done, I always recommend people to go and have all the blood tests to get everything clear. And once all the physical aspects are clear, then you know that actually this is probably more to do with the mind. Right. And our emotions. Right. And that's the dominant cause of fatigue. So if you look at anxiety, depression, and stress, the number one symptom that they share is fatigue or severe fatigue. And in fact, it's the number one complaint that people go to a doctor or a physician for is, fatigue caused by some of these types of conditions. And then obviously when it gets very severe, people then go into a different illness, which is chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, where actually a vicious cycle in the brain is causing the fatigue to feed off itself. And it's not just fatigue, it's a whole stimulation of the immune system and nervous system. So that's a separate thing. But in terms of mild to moderate fatigue, it's very, very common, actually.
And that doesn't surprise me. Like when you are stressed or feeling in those places, it's exhausting. It's so exhausting, just with the mental energy that goes into it. And then just, I guess, the physical effect of worrying what that does to your body, pumping chemicals into, like, it's exhausting. I'm going to read some more comments because we've got some great comments. Elizabeth says, I use his app, Meaning of Life Experiment Daily, is great. Thank you for that recommendation, Elizabeth. Carol says, awesome to hear someone address fibromyalgia. I had a doctor, rheumatologist, tell me, look at my reading today, I'm super impressed, I'm getting these words out, tell me that it was not a real illness. Interesting. Well, I'm glad you got to the bottom of it, Carol. Carrie says, I'm feeling very heavy and sluggish as I have been. I'm feeling stagnant. I'm very achy. I have severe back issues and fibromyalgia. I'm overexerted and stressed, being pulled in so many directions. I'm usually pretty well grounded, yet I can't seem to find the ground beneath me. I'm trying to breathe, still going to the gym, started a new job. I'm putting in the work, yet my wheels are just spinning. Carrie, that's stressful. Ashok, what do you have to say for what Carrie is dealing with? And is that something that you hear often?
Yes. So once again, if someone's suffering from a condition which has symptoms of fibromyalgia, then they will experience a lot of heaviness, they'll experience pain, they'll experience difficulties thinking, so a whole range of very severe symptoms. And for that, we recommend our brain retraining program. So that's a different thing. That's when it's got so severe that it's causing its own severe illness in and of itself. And so that's where the brain retraining comes in. But as I talked about, most people are still experiencing mild to moderate fatigue and heaviness and a lack of energy, a lack of enthusiasm, which doesn't seem to have a specific cause. And the reason the medical profession has a difficulty dealing with it is because the traditional medical profession traditionally looks at the body like a car. You know, something goes wrong in this area of the car, we fix that and everything's fine. Oh, this hormone is low, we fix that, everything is fine. But in more alternative and complementary medicine, we see that the whole human being is one thing, it's one person, it's one energy. And we talk about chi energy or prana energy. And we know that you might be sitting behind a desk all day, you're not doing any physical activity, you're not tiring your body, but you could be stressed and feel absolutely physically exhausted at the end of the day. So that's not something to do with the physical body as such, it's the effect of the mind. And the mind is the number one reason. And it's so interesting, you know, I meet a lot of people who I call the worried well, who feel this sluggishness and heaviness and don't feel energized. And they're constantly looking for that miracle food that's going to suddenly give them a boost of energy. Oh, I need chia seeds. Yes, that's why I'm not feeling well. So I'm not eating chia seeds, or I need my wheatgrass shots. And they become obsessed with these supplements and diet, whereas actually the number one reason, which is harder to deal with, is our minds. Worry, anger, sadness, those three emotions are the ones that
Shame and
drain us of
guilt.
our energy.
Yeah. Shame and guilt, I want to add to that too, because I think that they're pretty powerful ones. 100%. We've got Carol saying, responding on my bed. I've been in extreme pain and fatigue during the last 3 days. I'm experiencing a flare-up. So Ashok, I think that would be a good way to, so by the way, guys, if this is of benefit to you, I don't know if any of you know, but Facebook has been a bit of a pain in the backside with algorithm changes. And so it doesn't really show you anything that you follow. So if you like this, please like it, comment, share, and it really helps other people who may benefit from it to actually get to see it. So I really appreciate it. You just taking a second to click a love heart or a like if you appreciate this. So Ashok, you've been ill. So what advice would you, and you were saying earlier about not being able to exercise. So what were the things that kind of got you back to health and feeling energized and active? And so then in that respect, what would you give to Carol, who's in bed feeling a lot of pain?
Sure. So as I said, when it comes to severe pain, ongoing illness that lasts more than 6 months, that's where someone needs to get that checked out by their doctor. And if they get a diagnosis of ME/CFS or fibromyalgia, then we would recommend a brain retraining program, which is called the Gupta program. If someone is just dealing with occasional to moderate pain and then fatigue, we recommend something that I call the Gupta MEND protocol. So MEND stands for MEND. And this is really how I live my life. And we've worked with a lot of, thousands of people at our clinic. And the MEND protocol we found has been really powerful at getting to the root causes of stress and the root causes of fatigue and how we can reduce it in our lives. So I thought before I go through that, I might just give a bit of background as to why more and more people in the population are experiencing all of these symptoms. And I think it's because our bodies and our nervous system and our immune system were designed for a different era. So from an evolution point of view, we were designed to be either hunter-gatherers or working on farms. So we were outdoors, we were getting exercise and activity, we were mainly eating a diet without additives within it. And then suddenly in the last 100 years or so, we've started living in boxes, moving in boxes, and working in boxes, not getting enough daylight, not getting activity and exercise, and also eating a bad diet. And so, when I go to India, I sometimes go to these villages where I see some of my relatives, and you see people there who are incredibly poor and don't have great diets, but they never complain of fatigue or feeling down. They feel very happy. And I compare that to the fact in the West or certain countries, we have everything that we need, and yet we don't seem to have that energy, that enthusiasm, and that kind of drive that I've seen in some people that don't have anything. And I was really thinking about this, and I think it's because of the way that we are living. We live in what I call a pro-inflammatory state. And I think this is the root cause of why so many people are experiencing fatigue. So let me explain what inflammation is for those people who don't know. Imagine the immune system in our body that protects us from danger is always supposed to be in a state of balance. It's not supposed to be overstimulated. So it's like a car alarm. The car is protected by the car alarm. But then if the car alarm is a bit too sensitive, if a cat jumps on the car alarm goes off. And we all have that situation where a car alarm goes off, but we just ignore it. Or someone walks past and the car alarm goes off again. So most of us in the population are in this low-grade inflammation where that car alarm keeps getting set off. And because it gets set off, it's using up a lot of our background energy. And the MEND protocol is designed to reset our kind of nervous system and our immune system. So when it comes to this pro-inflammatory state, in terms of MEND, so MEND, M stands for mind. So we're in a situation in life where we're experiencing more stress, more anxiety, more depression. We're using devices which are keeping our nervous system stressed. We're not exercising enough. Our nighttime routines mean that most people aren't getting enough sleep. So the N stands for nighttime routine, and D stands for diet. So we're eating an inflammatory diet with lots of sugar, oil, refined flour, fried foods, gluten, dairy, processed foods. All of these foods, which are recent introductions to our diet, all inflame the system. So trouble is in the mind, lack of exercise, a bad nighttime routine, so not deep sleep, and a bad diet are all contributing to this pro-inflammatory state, which means they're experiencing fatigue constantly. And so we have the Gupta MEND protocol, which is addressing all four of these.
Right. I've just seen a comment from Lynn saying, I'm depressed. I don't move from my bed. I don't have any energy. Liane, maybe, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I think that point that Ashok just made is super, super helpful, of those looking at those four things that could be causing you to feel that way, and looking into his MEND program to help you address some of those things. Definitely. We've got a lot more comments. Thank you, wonderful people, for commenting. I mentioned that, and you're all saying some fantastic things. It's really great to hear from you. Blah, 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 blah. Jeff says, I love this too. I have had issues at times where I feel like it's very hard to get my energy up in the morning, and sometimes do my workout. So again, that was great that you touched on that, Ashok. I do think a morning routine is so, so important. And we are not exercising enough. We don't move enough. We're not designed to sit at desks all day. We're designed to sort of cover huge distances of land and be active and move around, and we're just not. So yeah, that it's very important. Elizabeth saying, yep, you should try the program then. So many success stories. Thank you for that. Joshua says, general tiredness. Yes, it was simple. It was simple though. Drink water, sleep more, eat better, and don't obsess over things. It's just not always that simple to follow that advice on a daily basis. Yes, we totally agree. And that's why it's good to have people and support groups and networks that help with that. Flurp says, good morning. Hi, Flurp, lovely. Carol says, I wish I could talk or experience a session with you. He's right there, love. We'll have all of his details in the comments, so you can definitely contact Ashok as soon as this is done. And if you've got any specific questions now while we're on the call, we've got like another 15 minutes. So that would be great.
Yeah, and I'm very happy for people, for me now, to spend a few minutes just going through the MEND protocol, actually, and kind of giving away what it is that we do in the MEND protocol. So very happy to go through those four right now.
Totally. Like. So everybody, yeah, for anyone that was asking.
So in terms of the MEND protocol, so M stands for mind in terms of what causes the issues. So in terms of the protocol itself, M stands for mindfulness and meditation. So we know from a lot of studies that the number one quickest and easiest way to boost your levels of energy is to dedicate some time to regular meditation and also breathing, right? Because when we feel tired, when we feel depressed, when we feel anxious, the rhythm of our breathing changes and we don't get enough oxygen into the cells, which also then creates a self-fulfilling strategy. We feel more depressed because we're not getting enough oxygen. So I advise people to take up regular meditation. So we have a not-for-profit app called The Meaning of Life Experiment, where people can meditate for 20 minutes a day. And in terms of breathing, in the app, there's some breathing exercises, but also we recommend a course called the Art of Living course, which is artofliving.org, which is a fantastic course which energizes the body, full of oxygen and everything like that. And people really find that energy increases as a result of that course. And a recent Harvard study found that those people who learnt meditation, they followed them for a year before they learned meditation and a year afterwards. And they found there was a 50% drop in their usage of medical facilities. Can you believe that? So imagine if that was a pill that Pfizer came up with. It would be the miracle drug of the 21st century. And yet we have a drug here that takes 20 minutes a day that can halve our usage of medical facilities, which is, just miraculous. And in that study, the magic number was 20 minutes. So if we dedicate 20 minutes a day, perhaps in 2 10-minute sessions before breakfast, before dinner, we will find that our energy levels increase, our happiness increases, we don't feel so sluggish anymore, and the breathing also oxygenates the body and gets the rhythms correct. So that's the M for mindfulness and meditation. E is for exercise. And so movement is so important, as one of your guests has just mentioned. And a myth that I'd like to dispel is this 10,000 steps myth, which everyone's buying their Fitbits and whatever and walking 10,000 steps. Interestingly, what's far more powerful than 10,000 steps is simply becoming breathless. So there's no evidence that 10,000 steps will actually increase your longevity or your cardiovascular system. But actually, getting out of breath a couple of times a day is very important. So 2 or 3 10-minute walks in nature, walking fast enough that you're out of breath, really tunes our whole system and is very healthy for us. So rather than thinking, oh no, I've got 5,000 steps left, instead it's the quality of your exercise and movement, not the quantity of your movement, that really matters. And if we can do that in nature, getting lots of light, that's really good. And because we're moving and getting our energy flowing in the body, our sleep becomes deeper at night as well. So it's a win-win situation. So that's all we're asking. I think these small little changes are very powerful. 10 or 20-minute meditations a day, a couple of brisk walks in nature every day, and you'll already start feeling the energy flowing into the system. Thirdly, the nighttime routine. What we really mean is sleep. But if we use the S, it would have been the MEST protocol instead of the MEND protocol. So we cheated.
And that doesn't have a good ring to it. I see what you did there. Very smart.
Yes. So we called it the nighttime routine. Most of us are getting 6.5 to 7 hours of sleep, but actually we really need 7.5 hours to 8 hours of sleep. And I know some people say, oh, but I don't need that. Actually, studies have shown that most people, the vast majority of people in the population, need 7.5 to 8 hours sleep minimum to operate at their optimal functionality. So their cognitive skills are at their best, their energy levels are at their best. And so having a good sleep routine is very important. Just like if you've got children or you've got a baby, you don't stimulate them at night, you get them into a routine and gradually allow them to slowly get back to sleep. And so getting up and sleeping at the same time is very important, allowing yourself the 7.5 hours minimum, avoiding caffeine and alcohol. So any caffeine after 4 o'clock in the afternoon can still keep you awake. And the number one reason I believe we're seeing more depression, more anxiety, more stress in the population is actually our devices. So in the evening, what a lot of us are doing is staring at these screens which emit blue light, which are keeping us awake, as well as the fact that when we're on a device, it's a lean forward experience. So we're keeping our mind active when we should be resting it. So the last few hours before we go to sleep, we don't want to use a device. We want to do things that is closer to our nature. So chatting with friends, playing with our children, singing, dancing. Tribal cultures all sing and dance in the evening, which then allows people to have a better sleep. And we also have a meditation called the Get Back to Sleep meditation, which often helps people. And reading at night is very powerful. And just to finish off, the D is for diet. Now, I know some of you are thinking, oh no, Ashok, you're going to turn us into a muesli eating, sandal wearing hippie. You're going to tell us this diet that we've got to take. Actually, there's some very small changes that we can make to our diet to reduce inflammation. So we want to reduce the big inflammers, so caffeine, alcohol, oil, fried foods, dairy and gluten. And we don't have to cut them out. We simply reduce them. And studies show that when we shift to a more plant-based diet, so more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, oats, rice, nuts, fish, then we find that the energy levels seem to return back to normal. So when we shift from this unusual modern diet that we're eating to a more traditional diet, which is more plant-based. And finally, some anti-inflammatories like turmeric, ginger, vitamin D, our omega-3s, getting sunlight. All of those things also reduce the inflammation in the body. But out of all of these four in the MEND protocol, it is the mind stuff, the mindfulness, meditation, and breathing that's the most important. Yet in our modern culture, it's the one that we give least attention to. And with the mind, what we also want to do is have some purpose, some inspiration. Why would your body give you energy if you don't feel inspired in life, to live an inspired life, to live your life purpose? So really gaining that passion and understanding what really drives you and incorporating that into your life is so important as well.
I couldn't agree more. It is incredibly helpful, all of those four things. And so anyone that was talking about kind of feeling tired, low, depressed, every single one of those points was fantastic. And I 100% agree with all of those. So thank you for that really simple but helpful breakdown. Just going to check some more of these comments. We've got Mary saying, isn't a change of lifestyle in terms of eating more healthy also a good way? Yep, which Ashok just said. Cheryl says, I suffer from fatigue, anxiety, depression, and vitamin D deficiency due to work hours, which leaves me feeling very sluggish. I've been suffering from this for the past year. I would say, Cheryl, in that respect, really looking at, isn't there studies of people that work on shifts having higher rates of cancer, like sort of people in hospitals and things like that, and like flight attendants and people that do things, probably doctors and nurses too. But I think that we're not used to that. And so.
Yeah, so shift work actually throws our sleep rhythms, our cortisol rhythms, our hormonal rhythms completely out of whack. And it increases cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and cancer. And so really, if we are having to work in shift work or we're not getting natural light, there are certain lamps that we can buy which can actually start stimulating the correct sleep rhythms and hormonal rhythms within it. So I would suggest getting one of those light boxes. You can get them on Amazon and whatever, and they tend to regulate our system better.
But here's the thing: if she's working on opposite hours, the lamp won't help if she has to be awake for work on hours that aren't part of our sleep rhythm, right?
Yes, absolutely. So in those particular situations, the manufacturers of these lamp boxes do have specific ways that you can use them if you're experiencing shift work to reduce the effects of it. So there are special ways.
I see. So when she is at home, when she's not working, and it's kind of the opposite time of everything or whatever, you can use the light. You can
use it to come back into the next sleep rhythm that you're going to need in the coming week. Yeah, so you can use a light box to bring you back to your normal sleep rhythm.
That's an interesting point, Cheryl. I would listen to that. And also I would say maybe if you're really struggling with it and it's affecting your health, is there a way of looking for work or getting yourself on a work schedule that, excuse me, that is actually not going to make you feel fatigued and anxious and depressed. Is that an option? Josephine says, I have a concussion that has lasted over a month, but I'm not sure if me not feeling good is because of that or if I'm depressed because so much has changed due to this concussion. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there could be both. I mean, yeah, I definitely think there could be both going on there, and continuing to see people to get help for that. What would you say to that, Ashok?
Yes, I mean, the MEND protocol is about putting our system into what I call the optimal healing state.
Right.
So whatever illness we might be suffering from, maybe we're recovering from an operation or, as this person has said, a concussion. Actually, the MEND protocol puts your body and your system into a finely tuned state so it can better deal with some of these issues. And of course, if you've had a concussion, it can affect you mentally, physically, emotionally. So getting on top of all of this is all the more important. And I give my example of my ankle. You know, when my ankle broke, I noticed that because I wasn't physically exercising and doing cardio anymore, I noticed little shifts in my mood that weren't there before. But to compensate, I started meditating a bit more, making sure I was eating a healthier diet, you know, getting a bit more sleep. And that was able to compensate for the fact that I couldn't exercise. So all four of these things are not things that we need to feel are pressures. But if we just do a bit of each of those, I think it can really make a big difference.
Yeah. Maggie was saying, there's people again saying problems with sleeping. I have a problem with sleeping, especially if I'm anxious. Maggie says, I wake every few hours, no matter how exhausted I am. And so you're saying, again, following this protocol, the meditation, the mindfulness, the eating, what are your evening routines of switching off?
Yeah, and I would say the most powerful thing to get sleep rhythms back, because obviously when we're treating people with chronic fatigue syndrome, that's at the very severe end of an overstimulated nervous system. The number one thing is during the day, can you meditate in the morning before breakfast and then meditate before your evening meal? Because when you meditate in the evening, you let go and reset your nervous system from all the stresses of the day. Then your digestion is better. So when you're eating, your digestion is better because you've calmed the nervous system. And then in the evening, you have a wind down towards sleep. And we have some meditations that can help people whilst they're lying in bed to actually fall asleep as well. And as I said, reading in the evening, making sure you're not stimulating yourself. If you've got worries, you're getting those worries out of your mind. That can get the sleep rhythms back to normal. So there's a few simple things that we can do. But the simplest and most powerful is meditation. And if you're finding the meditation isn't even calming you, the solution is to just meditate for longer. And also to practice with breathing techniques. So it's a bit like, you know, some people do it for a few days and think, oh, this isn't working. But it's like going to the gym after you haven't been for 10 years and expecting to suddenly pump, you know, lots of iron and think, yes, it's going to be easy. It does take a number of weeks for meditation for your system to get used to meditation and for all the positive effects to come. But insomnia, the number one way that we can overcome it is regular mindfulness and meditation, definitely.
I think that's, very good point. And what you touched on as well about the eating and digestion and meditating before you eat, I hadn't heard that before, but I think that's fantastic. A lot of the times when I'm feeling immense stress, I can't eat and my stomach's in knots. I think that's where I hold my stress. And so I don't want to eat. And I also think it's terrible when you do eat in that you can't enjoy the food. And I just don't think that's good for your digestion. And so I've never heard that before. And it makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we also treat irritable bowel syndrome, and
which is 100% stress. Sorry,
yeah.
I've experienced that, and it was all stress.
Yeah. And I had that when I was also unwell. And what's happening is in IBS, mental stress goes to the stomach. So we all have different places where our stress accumulates. So people who experience more anger type symptoms, their stress tends to go into the head and more into headaches. People who are more fear-based prone, their stress tends to go into the stomach, into the solar plexus area, which tightens up the intestines. And actually, if you meditate on your actual intestines, so if you meditate before you eat, you feel your intestines and you imagine them loosening up, consciously bringing your awareness to it, you'll find that your stomach begins to loosen up. You feel calmer after 20 minutes, and your digestion is much better. And something else to add to that, we haven't mentioned water, although I think one of your guests did. It's so important to drink lots of water. So that's often one of the very simple ways we can reduce our fatigue. And we don't want to drink during or after a meal because, as you may know, we dilute all the enzymes. So we want to wait 20 minutes, have some water, wait 20 minutes and then eat. And then after we've eaten, we want to wait an hour before we drink any further water to allow our digestion to be much more effective. So the way we're drinking water is very important. And we want to drink lots of water between meals. And you'll get all these mainstream medical practitioners saying, oh, we don't need water, we have enough water in the diet. What they're not realizing is because we're living inflammatory lifestyles and there's more stress in the system, we are losing more water because of that way that we're living. So we do need more water as well.
Fascinating stuff. I did not know that, actually. So thank you. So just to wrap up, we've got Carol says, I left out that I have two incurable heart conditions. And I guess that would be a cause of a lot of the stress. So mindfulness, I think, is definitely huge for that. One, prevent my heart to have enough blood when it pumps, and that equals not enough oxygenation of the blood. Also, the other is tachycardia with a baseline of 115 pulse. My question is, how do I get enough oxygen and exercise? Thank you.
Right. So obviously with an actual illness, cardiovascular illness like that, you want to consult with your doctor to make sure that any breathing or meditation do is not going to make the rhythms of your heart worse. But generally, slow, deep breathing has a way of resetting the nervous system. So if we get stressed, we breathe more shallowly from up here and less from the belly. When we breathe deliberately from the belly, so our bottom hand is moving further. Luckily in the shot, you don't get to see my belly, which is very lucky for me. So as we're breathing in and out, we want our belly to move more than our hand up here. And that resets the nervous system and allows more oxygen to flow into the system and oxygenate. So that's a simple way that we can do this. As I mentioned, the Breathing on the Art of Living Foundation, many people have found that that's been very powerful at helping them with physical illness.
And then what would you say about exercise? She was also asking about exercise.
So once again, this is in consultation with your doctor. If you find if you find proper cardio too much, then, as I said, brisk walking in nature, it has a profound effect on our mental, physical, and emotional well-being. You know, making sure, I live in London and I make sure every Saturday and Sunday or one day a week, I'm going out into countryside and having a good 2 or 3 hours ramble in the countryside. And that just energizes my system, the prana or the chi is flowing. And that's once again a great way of, healing the body. So yeah, starting off with brisk walking would be a gentle way to start.
Ashok, thank you so much. This has been full of so much practical, useful, helpful information for me and for everyone listening. So I can't thank you enough. Where can people find out more about you?
Okay, so I think if people are suffering from ME/CFS and fibromyalgia and these kind of chronic conditions, we have a brain retraining program that's called the Gupta program. So you can go to guptaprogram.com, the English spelling or the American spelling, and then you can find out more and sign up for our free video course there. And if you're suffering from mild to moderate fatigue and stress, we have a not-for-profit app called The Meaning of Life Experiment, which you can download at TheMeaningofLife.tv. So that's the website, TheMeaningofLife.tv, or you can go to App Store or Google Play and type in Meaning of Life Experiment, and the app will come up there. And that has lots of great 10 and 20-minute meditations and lots of videos, practical wisdom that you can incorporate straight away to decrease your stress and also discover your life purpose as well.
Absolutely fantastic. Great. Well, that was it. Thank you so much for everybody that has joined us and has shared your kind of thoughts and comments and stories. It's amazing that you've kind of had the opportunity for Ashok to sort of answer some of those concerns. We'll have links to his website where you can get the app, all of that type of thing in the comments, and I'll update the show notes. But thank you as always. I always ask this because Facebook is a bit of a pain in the butt, and we've got lots and lots of followers on the page, but you'll never see anything from Uplifting Content unless you go to following and then see first on the page, which means that you'll see a couple of posts from us every day. Also, if you like these Facebook Lives, I'm speaking to fantastic people, and there's so much really great things to learn from these. So to make sure that you don't miss any of those, you can go to following, and then you can be notified when we go live. In a lot of them, we give away free things too, just for leaving comments and asking questions. So you can get a lot out of that. Everybody, thank you again. It's always lovely to see you. Ashok, that was fantastic. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Ione. It's been wonderful. Really
my
lovely.
pleasure. I'm glad that we finally got to it 3 months later. Thank you for being on it. Everyone, I will see you soon. Oh, actually, I'll see you on Friday when I'm speaking to Jenna Phillips Ballard at 10 a.m. So make sure that you are on for that. Take care, guys. Bye.